Beloved believers, guests who are visiting from around the world. We also have some visiting from the Global Peace Foundation. We have some of our Christian brothers and sisters with us today as well, and we also have those visiting, I think, from Saudi Arabia. So we extend all of you the greetings of peace. Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum. Please silence all cell phones, please, until after Juma. Thank you. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Ashhadu an la ilaha Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah. Hayallah salat. Hayallah salat. Hayallah salat. Hayallah Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah huwa alladhi khalaqa insana min tin wa ukhrijahu min adh-dhulumati ila an-nur fa nahmaduhu wa nasta'inuhu wa nastaghfiruhu nu'minu bihi wa natawakkalu alayhi na'udhu billahi min shururi anfusina wa sayyiati a'malina may yahdihillahu fala mudilla lahu wa may yudlil fala hadiya lahu ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wahdahu la sharika lah lahul mulk wa lahul hamd wa huwa ala kulli shay'in qadir wa asyhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluhu sallallahu alaihi wa alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'd. Qala Allah fi Quran al-Kareem ya ayyuhalladhina amanu attaqullah haqqa tuqatihi wa la tamutunna illa wa antum muslimun. Wa aidan fi Quran al-Kareem Allah says, man kana yu'minu billahi واليوم الآخر ومن يتق الله يجعل له مخرجا. With Allah's name, the merciful benefactor, the merciful redeemer, we always begin with Allah's name, asking for His help, His assistance, and acknowledging that the complete and perfect praise and thanks belongs to Him. It is due to Him and to Him alone. And we thank Him. We thank Him for my presence. We thank Him for your presence. And we ask for His blessings, and we hope that He will accept what we present today. We ask for His aid. We seek Him for forgiveness, and we ask all goodness of Him. We trust Him. We trust Him with our future. And we ask Him to guide our delivery, to guide our tongues, to guide our minds, and to bless us to achieve the best for you, those who are here with us, those who are listening here physically, those who are listening from around the world, and those who will be listening to the recording later. So we witness that Allah is one, Wahda, He's one, He's only one, whose life is without need, but there is no life without a need in Him. He doesn't eat, and He has no need of, and He's not fed. And Allah lets us know, yet He feeds all. He lets us know, He says that nothing is like Him in the creation, and He is not like anything in the creation. We say Allahu Akbar, we just heard in our wonderful adhan, that He's bigger, He's greater than anything and everything. And He doesn't increase, He doesn't diminish. He is today, at this very moment, as He's always been. He created change, but He Himself is free from change. He created rest, but He Himself is free from rest. He created time, but He Himself is free from all the limitations of time. And we want to add also space. As we say often, space changes, and space is all around us, but Allah does not change. And space depends on what's there. We occupy space, we have extra space, etc. But Allah lets us know that although space is all around us and is forever present, He says that He is more present than space itself. So He wants us to not see Him as being away in heaven, as some want to see. No, He said He's above heaven. He's above earth. He's above all of creation, but yet He wants the human being, the one who becomes conscious, the one who has the intellect to perceive this, He wants them to know that He is close. He's near. He said He's closer than your very jugular vein, as He says in the Quran, to let us know just how close He is. So though He's that close, He's not in the jugular vein, He's close to us than the jugular vein, because Allah Ta'ala, He cannot be contained. He cannot be confined. His existence is indebted to nothing and to no one, and He needs nothing. He needs nothing from outside of Himself. And we know this is only true of Allah, and it's true of nothing else. Everything else that Allah Ta'ala has created, it has to, by its nature, it has to depend on something else, inside and on the outside. So we have been given life. So our life as human being is no different. It has these needs, it has these dependencies. And life for us as human beings is like life for everything else. It's like the trees, like the insects. Everything has to have something that supports its life. Otherwise, its life can't survive. So it has to have something it has to have an environment that supports that life. And so the life for us as Muslims, our great life is our life of faith, our life of Iman, and our life of taqwa, our life of consciousness, having a consciousness of Allah Ta'ala. Faith is what liberates the human being. Allah lets us know in the Quran and really in all the scriptures really, and we are reminded of this, that He points to the heavens. He has in every scripture, He has us look up into the heavens. Tells the human beings to look up into the heavens for us to observe the wisdom for a higher order of human life. Where? Here on this earth. And we know even in the earlier prayers it says, Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And then there's the pointing up, there's the looking up, even in the scriptures that came before us. And Allah lets us know in the Quran, He says, خَلَقَ السَّمَاوَاتِ بِغَيْرِ عَمَّدٍ تَرَوْنَهَا. So He created the heavens, and He said, without anything. He said, any extremes, any pillars, any poles, any columns that you can see. And He leaves that for you to let your mind go, and you look, and we don't see anything. The question is, how are they there? They say, how are they suspended like that? There's bodies, and we forget sometimes that Earth, we look out, so we forget sometimes that we're just suspended to this planet that we're on is suspended among all the other matter, and we're sitting out there too. And Allah put that to us also as a question: what is it that holds us up? You know, then he doesn't leave us, again, as we say often, He doesn't leave us without an answer. He wants us to look at it and come to the conclusion that not only your life, look at that, and then look at your life here on this earth, and look at all of that out there, and to come to the conclusion not only your life, but the existence of the material universe, the existence of the vast creation, the heavenly bodies is existing, and it is depending upon forces that we can't see. Even it is dependent on things that we can't see. So that's communication to us, to the human being, that there's a power there that they depend on. And surely if they depend on powers that we can't see, we should certainly depend on powers that we can't see. Speaking again, the answer is faith. And He says, look at it. Look at the mass bodies out there. The sun, the moon, and then the different galaxies, etc. The billions, all of that is sitting out there. You know, and it has some weight. It has some weight. And Allah said, what's holding that up? What's holding up all of that weight? And He says it's faith. It's faith. Now that should tell us something. That faith, it has to support something. If you have faith, it ain't supporting anything. It don't have anything that we can see, that your faith has produced this work. Then you don't have faith. This is really the answer. What Allah is saying. If it's not, He said, faith supports all of this. All of this weight is supported because all of that has faith in the power that's greater than that created it. So Allah is saying to us that trust Him. That everything that's created, it has faith in Him and it trusts Him. So He's talking to us, speaking to us, that we should have faith in Him. That's massive. And we are dealing with smaller things here on this planet. People who we see that they disturb us greatly in terms of things that they do. They upset us. People are frustrated. Some people, they're losing their mind because they don't know how to deal with certain things. Allah says, look at all of this. If you have faith, that should register like a light tremor, if anything at all. The stuff that we have to register, that we take on, the things that we're dealing with in our life. Our faith in Him should show that stuff is small. Very, very small. So Allah wants us to know that He designed this whole creation. He designed the whole creation. He also designed us. So that trusts Him, so we should also trust Him. So we know Allah in the Quran, He calls us believers more than He calls us Muslims. So He's speaking to something. So He's speaking to the faith. He's speaking to the faith. And in the ayahs that we read, He says, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wa yawmil akhir." He says, whoever has faith in Him, and He didn't stop there. He could have stopped there, but He didn't stop there because He knows there are some people, they'll say they believe in God. When you look at their lifestyle, there are no signs of it, but they'll say they believe. So He also said that believe in what's coming, what's after, that there are going to be consequences. So now they believe, so they're going to live their life because they know they're going to be accountable. And then He says that وَمَنْ يَتَقِ اللَّهِ. So this is the taqwa, this is the state of consciousness. A state of consciousness has this consciousness of Allah. And I sent a message out this morning. I try to send a message out to the leadership body and others every Friday morning. And the message said, if there was or is a time for us to have unity, to have solidarity, the time is now. The time is now. The unity we are to have can only manifest when there is real faith. This is the key for that. Real faith requires real work. Real work. And we can't realize without that. We won't realize real faith. We can never simply believe. Allah says belief is not enough. You cannot just simply say you believe. We have to also build upon our belief. We have to establish something upon that belief. That's why when we say we take our shahada, the first thing we have to do now, we have to start establishing things upon what we say we believe. And then they call pillars, because now you have to build these things. They have to hold up something. They have to hold up. So that's not enough. In Allah, we look at establishing something. They say that the last chapter that was revealed to our dear Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam before he went to Yathrib, which later became known as the place of civility. Medin means to be civil. It wasn't called that until the Prophet, again, the first people got there, but that's what it means. He was showing how mankind is to live, how to establish civil life. We talk about civil rights, and he showed how to establish that in Medina, Munawwara, the city of light. The understanding of how to do this is this place that he gave us. And so we know after Surah, which is Surah 23, which is the believers, which was revealed before Medina, and takes him to Medina, and then begin to establish. Now they have to establish that life. And then we have Nur comes after that, the light. And so it's Medina Munawwara, the place where you see it. It's shown the light of how to live, how to come into and establish the life. It's shown this first model society that was established in Islamic history by our dear beloved Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. We have that. And so Allah he's speaking in the model. He's speaking to our faith. He's speaking to the faith in us. And again, we have our Christians, some are here with us today, and we know that what establishes us, our foundation for us, our Aqidah, as we say, Aqidah, and we're in the word Aqidah, we have Aqadah, and we know when we read the Quran, we need to seek refuge in Allah from the one who blows fil uqad. He blows on the aqd, right? And Aqidah, and aqd is a knot. Is a knot, and it means that it means something that's tight, and that's speaking to your conviction, your creed. You're supposed to be convicted to your creed, the thing that you stand upon. You say, but that is upon faith. It's a certain belief that we have, and it's different. It's different from Christians and Jews, though it may sound the same. And when we express and we speak about the articles of faith, we had groups here, we have children here, and high schools come here, and we tell them to give us the things that they believe in. And in general, they're the same. They believe in a creator. They believe in angels. They believe in books. They believe in life, death, the judgment. They believe in the prophet. They sound the same, but the core of that expression, this kalima, is la ilaha illallah. So that's a little different. That's a little different. You see? Because the others, they have someone else, others that they put in the equation, they give divinity to. And last, say there is no deity, nothing, Allah alone. He doesn't share that partnership. No one but others. And even the Jews and others, they have others that they put in that equation, So we're different, and that being the case, we should know ourselves. And this is why we're supposed to look at the model. We're supposed to study the history and look at how it unfolded for us, so we can begin to look at ourselves. And because we have to say here, especially those who come here, and we know from the history here, in the language of the initiator and whose teachings planted the seeds for the establishment of what became known as the Nation of Islam, in his trying to give us the language of Islam. Again, we hear it often, no other movement embedded the language of Islam more than this movement. There were other movements, but no movement embedded the language more. Muslim became popular not with the ones that came before, Islam didn't become popular with the movements that came before. No, this movement became popular with this person, this language right here. And again, this community here is produced out of that, that's today called Masjid Muhammad. But he said, and he taught, to know yourself and to be yourself. He taught that, know yourself and be yourself. And he asked a question, and then he gave the answer, and who is my own self? He asked the question, and the answer, my own self. He didn't say is a Muslim. He said a righteous Muslim. That was the answer. A righteous Muslim. This was the language. Now, he didn't have the complete picture that we have today. But look at what he said. Look at this word. Look what he referred to. So we want some to note that. And he was echoing the teachings of our dear beloved prophet, again, the present peace upon him, who came 1400 years before, when he basically taught that every child born is born with that nature. Muslim, with the small m. We embrace the identity, that's the big M. But everything is Muslim with a small m, because that's his nature. It submits and it comes into disobedience to Almighty God. The Son is Muslim, it doesn't disobey. You see, that's why Allah said, look at those things that's created. Look up there, look at the order. Look at the unity, look at the peace. And how they're able to come together. Everybody have their roles and respect their roles and their different pieces of orbit, etc. They all submit. They don't go against that. And he lets us know, because we got a picture again in every scripture where Allah saw it in chaos at first, where it wasn't in compliance. And he said he didn't want it to stay like that. And that's in the previous scriptures. And then the Quran says the same thing to let us know that that's an accurate story. And he said to it, come together. Come together. Willingly or unwillingly. He said the creation, the matter at that time, way before us. Way before us. That matter that was in existence at that time replied, it had said come together willingly or unwillingly. It could have said, well, we got to come anyway, so we're going to come unwillingly. No, it said we come willingly. And that's the Muslim, that's the conscious Muslim now. He said the definition becomes we willingly submit our whole self to Allah. That's the conscious Muslim, the one that's awake. And we look at the creation that we came out of, and that really tells us, if Allah gives us that picture, that really tells us that that's the nature that we have, because we came out of that. You know? And that tells us that our nature doesn't want us to disobey Allah. Our very nature doesn't want us to disobey Allah. You know, I say often, I used to work for the Air Force Office of Special Investigations. When I was in the Air Force, right? It was in D.C. at the time. The headquarters was in D.C. at the time. And every time we go to work, in the forum, they had a saying that everybody would see coming into the building. And it would say, in God we trust, all others we polygraph. And that was the statement. And they're really echoing what Scripture was saying. Because they got that from Scripture. This scientific mind looks at it and know Allah, when he says something, it has to be true on a level that man can understand too. Because the body, in the order says, your body will testify against you. So the scientific mind looks at the study, and then it comes up with an instrument and find out that your body does testify against you. In real time. You don't wait till the day of judgment. It says you're being judged right now. Because it doesn't forget anything. Your body doesn't forget anything. So I had to take a polygraph a couple of months ago. And they told me they say, this is not true, but I want you to say this. And I said that, and that machine started saying, yeah, he's lying. And he said, now say this, it's another lie. I did it. That machine said, yes, he's lying. And he said, say this, and this is the truth. I said that, the machine said, yeah, he's telling the truth. And then he said, now that's how it's going to go. I'm not going to tell you what to say, what's true, but I'm going to ask you some questions. He started asking questions, and that machine let him know if it was telling the truth or lying. That's the body, because they don't want you disobeying Allah. It's creation, it's earth. That's what it came from. The same thing that submitted, it was doing and obeying that. And Allah shows us that's one example. But He also, every baby that comes here is upon a universal pattern of obedience, complete obedience to Allah. Just coming from paradise, a place where there was no disobedience, no wrong, no sin. They come from a Jannah, from the mother. Peace, everything is taken care of. And they come out upon that, ready to be shaped to be a beautiful human being. And that's what our prophet told us. He said, everyone that comes here upon that, just like everything else. It says the society, the environment, that causes them to come out of that. that come out of that. So he was echoing this, that's a part of the human being. So Allah, you see, now he's speaking to this that's in our nature. He's speaking to the faith that our very nature has in it. For us to constantly have the same faith that he established our life upon, and for us to constantly establish our life upon the power of faith. And really it tells us that being a Muslim doesn't necessarily mean that you are awake. I just explained to you. But it doesn't necessarily mean that you are awake or you're alive in your mind. It doesn't necessarily mean that you're conscious. You know? It doesn't mean that you're a believer. Just because we accept to call you, or you accept to call yourself a Muslim. You know, we know now that belief and thought are not the same. We see people, they say they believe the same, but the kind of things they're doing, the thinking, they say there's a crisis in the Muslim mind. There's a book called Crisis in the Muslim Mind that show that the thinking, the belief and thought are not the same. So Allah is trying to get us to really elevate the thinking so that our thinking will be in compliance with the very body. You see? He said the desert Arabs, they say they believe. And so Allah has in the Quran said, tell them, don't say you believe. They didn't really believe. No, the authority had become great. Dear Prophet, the peace upon him, they began to have the power. And so they just applied. They complied. So he said, no, you just submit. You don't believe. He said, belief ain't enter you yet. It didn't enter you yet. You see? So you just accept. And some of us, that's what we do. We accept the pillars. We got people, they do very perfect pillars. The prayers. They fast, but their life, when you look at their life, it shows they really don't have the faith, they really don't have the belief. And we say that a person can right here and pray beside somebody, get up and won't speak to them. And they'll actually roll eyes at them and pass them. How you going to just make the prayer and you just receive all this, and the person even pray with you, but you got benefit by the person praying with you, and you still don't want to acknowledge the beauty in that. So faith is the key, and our dear Prophet told us that you'll never get into the paradise until you have faith. But he made a condition for faith. Faith is a condition for paradise, but it's a condition for faith. He said you will not have faith. You will not have faith until you practice loving each other. Till you practice showing that you care for each other. That's a condition for faith. You can't say you have it if you don't have that concern for your brother, your sister. And then he made it very simple. He said, I give you something that will help you. He said, Afshu salam. Spread peace. Spread peace. Beginning with the greetings. And again, some people won't even give the greetings. They won't even give the greetings. And I'm going to close on the story. We hear it all the time, so it's always good to have a reminder. And we know the report. It was Abu Bakr who had the brother complained on him, saying he would never give the greetings first. So he would never give the greetings first. And so he can complain. And the Prophet wanted to know why you won't get the greetings first. And he looked, and he said, Dear Rasulullah, again sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he said, you have taught us that whoever gives the greetings first receives the greater, the bigger blessing. The one who gives it first receives the bigger. He said, you taught us that. He said, I love my brother so much. I wanted him to have that blessing. And then, of course, the companion, he started crying profusely after hearing this. That's why he never gave him the greetings first, because he wanted him to get the blessing. To give us, again, it's a model. And even in that, and it's as-salam, give the greetings. Again, it's some people say as-salam with difficulty. No, it's not ayin. The ayin the word comes after. It's as-salam. As-salam. And people want to shorten it. No, we don't say salam. Salam is later. You know, we do that to the world people, but the salam, but as-salam now. As-salam alaikum. The peace obligates us. Allah, the source of all peace, he obligates us to work for peace. It's an obligation upon us. You know, you do something for me, and I say thank you. You say, la shukra ala wajib. No thanks needed. I'm obligated. Yeah, I'm obligated. So ala wajib, I'm obligated. So alaykum is an obligation on you. And that's what we say. And the brothers say, well, alaykum as-salam, and the peace obligates you as well. And so now we work for peace. We start with ourselves, and we're obligated to spread that through the world. We pray Allah bless us to understand faith, Iman. And Iman, we know the root of that is amanah. It means that you'll be safe. It means that you'll have security. That we pray that Allah bless us to establish our life upon that. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim wa salatu wa salam ala Rasulih Kareem Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. In the second part, as we get ready to close, we know that Allah says in the reading that we said, "Man kana yu'minu billahi wa yawmal akhir wa man yattaqullah yaj'al lahu makhrajan." So this is a formula. This is a formula that Allah gives in the Quran. And He says, whoever has faith in Allah and what's coming later, what's coming after the day, what's coming the after days, and you have a high conscience of Allah, He says that He Himself, Allah says that He Himself will make for you, He will make for you a way out. A way out. And He leaves a way out. And He said He will give you everything you need. And He said most of it will come from where you never even thought it was possible. He said, if you have this formula, and we're always looking for ways out of all kinds of things. If a fire broke out in here, we'll be looking for the way out. What's the best way to get out of here? If we had an active shooter situation, which we have to be prepared for, we got some training coming up too, but we have to be prepared in terms of which way to go, etc. We're looking for a way to get out. You know, things happen in your life. You're looking for a way to get out of this mess. You know, you're looking for out. You know, He said He will make for you a way out if you have this formula here. So this is a week. We're ending the week now, and of course, there's a lot of things in the news now. This is the week that the Juneteenth is commemorating. This 10th. We're just ending this week of this Juneteenth. And we know, again, that's the story here in America. It's an American story affecting the people we call today African Americans. The story of slavery, and then, of course, emancipation. This is in American history. And it addressing the experience of a people that really all they had was faith. They didn't have that. Everything else was taken from them. Everything else was taken from them. They have their language, their culture, everything else was taken from them. No memory. If you try to go back in anything in tradition, and they killed you. If you try to make you comply, if you didn't comply, then you were taken out. And this is the whole thing. So this is all they had. That's all they had. And we know that the significant number came from Africa. And that's why today we say African Americans. But we're not the same Africans. We're new people. It's a new people today. New Africa is the language that's being used. We're trying to establish New Africa here. We're from there, but we're not those people. But we're different people. We're new people. We have a new mind. Allah evolved us over time in this society. And we know that, again, these new people, these people of faith who were a part of this North Atlantic slave trade, was the largest forced migration and enslavement in human history. The largest in human history. And again, we mentioned previously that, draining away more than 12 million people. More than 12 million people in 400 years, and via this passage called the Middle Passage. I was listening to one speaker a couple of nights ago. He said it's like having a 9/11 once a week for 400 years. He said he compared that to that. This speaker, and that's a powerful to look at it like that. And that's about 4,000 people in the 9/11. And you say every week that's happening every week. It would be devastating, but it was very devastating. What happened was very devastating, But when we look at the history of the people, what has sensitized these people, these African Americans, to seek Allah and to aspire to have an independent life, the life that He created, and we begin to see the struggle for this humanity begin to take shape over the years, we know that it was faith that caused them to endure. to endure all of the intense suffering, all the intense abuse, again, the worst conditions of chattel slavery witnessed in the human history, and for them to overcome that, and to become a very productive people. And Allah says in the Quran, He says that He will establish a relationship for you with Him that would never break. La infasama laha. It would never break. So again, we have to be mindful of Allah Ta'ala. As we look at this year, again, just for everybody to be mindful of what's happening this year, if you don't, this is the 400th anniversary since 1619, when they're using that as a date when the first African Americans, or the African slaves, those were enslaved in Jamestown and brought here. So 400 years, and then of course, one of the slaves who just got his freedom in the 1860s, he said this, and I'm saying this now because there's this week and last week they started this conversation about reparations. So I know you've been hearing this in the news, it's been in the paper. And so this is what one of them said immediately after being free in 1860. He said this. He says, by our unpaid labor and suffering, we have earned the right to the soil many times over and over. And now we're determined to have it. Now that was in 1860. And so you can imagine now, and then we look at this, they're presenting these what's called, they were at the Congress, this case for reparations. And since 1619, obviously 250 years of slavery takes us to the 1860s. And then that's 260 years. And then of course we know we had the Emancipation Proclamation took place in 1863. And then of course in 1865 we have the 13th Amendment now that's to the Constitution that effectively abolished, outlaw slavery. But what it didn't do was outlaw or abolish racism. Racism continued, and the effects of that practice still haunted us since that time, because 90 years after that of Jim Crow. Horrible conditions of Jim Crow. Two Americas, white, colored, etc. Conditions to the back. Lynchings took place. Mississippi had so many lynches. They had the greatest number of lynches of all the states. And then you had 60 years of separate but equal. 60 years of separate but equal. And then behind that, then you had this 35 years of racist housing policy. So all of these are fundamental, foundational things that people need to have life and to progress their life. And so here you can affect their conditions of living. So the racist houses policies, And so obviously what's being said this week, that until we reckon with our compounding moral debt, there's a moral debt that hasn't been paid, America will never be whole. And that's part of this, what's happening, all this stuff that's going on. The pendulum swinging to the extremes. They even get into African-American president, which you heard McConnell say, well, it's been paid. He said we gave them a African-American president. He said we gave them, But that produced extreme, because it's something that was considered to be impossible. It was never supposed to happen. It was okay for us to pretend and be with you and stay long as we had the power, but when that happened, then we begin to see more threats on any president in the history. We begin to see more of the roles, the enlistments, and white supremacist movements and hate movements in any time in the history of America. And so that was an extreme. So now the other extreme is those people, now they manifest, it goes to the other side. And so they're saying, we can't ever let this happen again. We can't let it happen again. So they're trying to do everything to stop it from happening again. And of course, what we see, the dynamics is that this racial picture, which I say we'd never outlaw that, this white supremacy piece is trying to, the demographics are set. I was in the military. In fact, 20 years ago when I was in the military, I was in charge of the Pentagon's diversity of thought program. And they were studying demographics, because for the military, when they looked at demographics, it was a matter of national security. And they saw then that so many years, they say the white male, because of demographics, they say white male, which was majority, at that time it was almost 80% of the military was controlled by white males. And it's getting low now. And they said, but that's going to reverse. There's going to be minorities who are going to become the majority. And they were saying that this is part of what we had to deal with. They say, because racism was in the military. And they said, we are denying people. They said, we continue to deny people the higher positions, and a lot of African Americans, a lot of Muslims too. They were getting out of the military, a lot of people, because they didn't see themselves in the high positions. And they said it takes I was a chief. It takes at least 20 years to produce a leader with the continuity to continue to move things forward. They said, if we're going to start now, it's going to affect our national security, because we're not going to have the base that's going to be the leaders and have the continuity. They said, we got to promote them now. We got to stop this stuff. So they start looking at that. So this is something that obviously we look at what's happening now. That knowledge is common. It's common knowledge now. And so this whole thing we see, even with the births, shutting down the birth, because a lot of the Caucasians, we look at the numbers, they're having more abortions than anybody else. And so that's to stop that, so they can have. So it's about the children. Because what was happening, the white among us, were they're having children. The ones they weren't having males. That's what put demographics in place for so many years. And they were having girls. And then the others are aborting life, you know. And so these things of trying to stop this is what we see happening here. And the immigration piece, they know, so we got to get them out. But the Supreme Court, all these things, meant to put a situation in place where the minority will have the authority. This is what a lot of this stuff is doing, you know, kind of like what South Africa had at one time, you know. The minority had the authority. And so obviously this is some things we're seeing. And this is the situation that we're here in this country. And so Allah is telling us, this is to tie this in now with what faith upholds and what it can do. Some people out there coming into despair over a lot of this. And a lot of them don't want to move. I mean, I'm in groups with people, leaders, and some of them, they're afraid to move. They don't know what to do. They're supposed to be people of faith, religious people. And I was shocked to hear some of the responses from some of them. But that's why we're having this conversation today. Allah is in charge. He's never not in charge. And He only do things to help cause us to do what He created us to do. And He gives us, like He said, I will give you what you need. You'll get out. This ain't nothing. And He said, I'm going to give you what you need from where you never thought possible. Yes, Tessie Boo. He said, yes, Tessie Boo. Yes, Tessie Boo. That's the eighth measure. The eighth measure of the word, which basically means inside. He said, and you never looked inside. You overlook what you have. The power that you have, you overlook the power that you have. He said, I'm going to give you what you need from where you never thought possible. Let's look at yourself. Look inside and build your life, progress your life upon faith. So we're here now, and we know that just 5 years after, and I'm getting ready to close this, five years after the 13th Amendment was ratified in 1865. Just 5 years after that, we saw descendants of those who had been enslaved established right here in Washington, D.C., the first African American high school. Not just in D.C. though, but again, for the whole of America, right here, Dunbar High School. And we have some leaders here from the alumni, from the Federation here that will be up in just a few minutes to make some comments as well. I wanted to make that point. And of course, just a couple of decades after that, also right here, a movement started in the 30s right here. And it's the oldest community in Washington, D.C., we looked at all of them, that began to see themselves as an Islamic community in the 1935, in fact. The others weren't here yet. The other movements weren't here. Some of the other movements across the country, but they weren't here yet. This movement started here in 1935. It was the Islamic community. And that community built the first mosque in America's history, right here in D.C., but ended up being across America, the first one built by descendants of enslaved Africans. Right here, Dunbar, right next door, and then all of a sudden you have this mosque here built also by descendants of enslaved Africans. It's the first, and ended up not just being the first in D.C., just like Dunbar, being the first across the country, ended up being the first across the whole country that was built. And it ended up being, they were 100%, you know, at that point we had citizenship. So that's the first mosque also built even more so by 100% citizens. Because the first one, the one in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and the Dakotas, those mosques, they didn't have 100% citizenship, and they were built by migrants. They had migrated here. Syrians built the one in Cedar Rapids, and those from Lebanon built the one in the Dakotas, and etc. But this one was built by those who had 100% citizenship, just happened to be descendants of enslaved Africans. So we have, and now out of that movement that came here, there was a member who was one of the leaders here that was an alumni of that first African American high school, and he ended up being the leader here. And we have been given a scholarship every year since his passing in honor of his name. And we're going to present that to the leaders from Dunbar today, to that scholarship, that award, today, immediately after we finish here. But I want to share with you again, those who don't know, Dr. Abdul Aleem Shabazz. He was the fourth leader here. They were called minister of the nation's mosque, Meshed Muhammad, again, before his transition, and also he was there when it transitioned. So he was the only one that was through the previous movement and through the transition. He was the one. He was here. He served from 1961 to 1975. Let me just share this with you about him, and so Dunbar knows this. They welcome this, and we've been doing this for several years now. He graduated again from Historic Dunbar in 1945. After graduating, he went on to become a well-respected mathematician, earning his undergraduate degree in math and chemistry from Lincoln University. He got his master's in mathematics from MIT, Massachusetts Institute of Technology, and his doctorate degree in mathematics from Cornell University. And he was appointed as an associate professor of mathematics by Tuskegee Institute. Dr. Shabazz is credited with having trained directly or indirectly half of all African Americans with PhD degrees in mathematics. He received numerous awards, and among them awards, these are just some of them. Now, this is not all of them. This is some of the things, some of the big ones. The American Association for the Advancement of Science Mentor Award, he got that for his leadership in efforts to increase the participation of women, minorities, and individuals with physical disabilities in science and engineering. He received the National Association of Mathematicians Distinguished Service Award for his years of mentoring and teaching excellence. President Bill Clinton awarded Dr. Shabazz a presidential award for excellence in science, mathematics, and engineering mentoring. And he also received the Association of African Americans Educators Award for his lifetime achievement. They gave him a lifetime achievement award for outstanding work with African Americans in math. Now, in 1961, while serving as head of the mathematics department at Atlanta University, Clark, Atlanta, Dr. Shabazz, he shocked the mathematics community when he announced that he was a member of the Nation of Islam. And after joining the Nation of Islam, his record of academic excellence, it was well known at that time. Very, very educated person. So he was appointed the Director of Education for the University of Islam right here in D.C. And of course, he held that position until 1975, and then he ended up going to Chicago. He was the head of the University of Islam. And look at that, University of Islam. Look at that name, University of Islam. Now, it wasn't a university as we know today. It was really just a primary school up to high school. But it was called, they were thinking big. They were thinking big. And it's a University of Islam. That was the language. In fact, one of the imams in the community, he put it on a resume to get a job at one of the top universities. They saw that he was a teacher at the University of Islam. They thought that was big, so they gave him the job based on him being a professor at the University of Islam. So that was Wilson preparing everybody for the universal stage. So when we conclude, we're going to have someone come up and receive the award, make some comments to us. And again, this is the Nation's Mosque. This is the 5th annual scholarship award in honor of Dr. Aleem Shabazz. So we want to remind you, this has been about faith, and let you know that please keep your faith. Always strive to please Allah with your utmost. Strive to stay away from lies. Strive to stay away from untruthfulness. Any bad behavior, because any bad behavior you tolerate, it will weaken your good nature. Your good nature that Allah created you upon, and that's your best nature. So we don't want that to be destroyed to the world. We don't want it to be lost to the world, and we don't want to give in to the sin of this world. We want to continue to strive to please Allah and to satisfy Him with first our obedience, because our obedience, as we see in our own bodies, was created for Him. We thank Allah for guiding our hearts, for guiding our intentions, for guiding our lives here in the United States to this path, this way, al-Islam. We ask Allah to keep us on the path and to give us His protection. May He keep our interest for the whole of the religion, and that we live it fully in society, so that our life will be a testimony, a witness for all other societies of what Allah wants for mankind. May Allah give us light and open our eyes for the light, and forgive us our ignorance and our sins against our own life, so that we will have His mercy and a new chance for life and progress. Ameen. Come with the salah.
Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. Rasulullah. Hayya ala salah, hayya ala salah. God, come to salah, God, come to salah. Allahu Akbar, Allahu Akbar. La ilaha illallah. Step back, brother, step back.
Thank you. Tighten your ranks. Straight lines, no gaps. Khashiyah. Humility. Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Ar-Rahmanir-Rahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyyaka na'budu wa iyyaka nasta'in. اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. ألم نشرح لك صدرك ووضعنا عنك وزرك الذي أنقض ظهرك ورفعنا لك ذكرك فإن مع العسر يسرا إن مع العسر يسرا فإذا فرغت فانصب وإلى ربك فارغب. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. الله أكبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. أحد الله الصمد لم يلد ولم يولد ولم يكن له كفوا أحد الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر الله أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله استغفر الله اللهم انت السلام ومنك السلام تبارك يا ذا الجلال والاكرام لا حول ولا قوة الا بالله الفاتحة بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين آمين
Takbir!
الله أكبر
Takbir!
الله أكبر
Takbir!
Assalamu alaikum. Yes, if we can have Miss Betty Cole come forth from Dunbar Alumni Federation. If someone can make way for her, someone can bring her up. I think it's nice. And we want to hear from our dear member. Is she on the way? While she's on the way coming up, I need everyone to try to be here on Sunday. We have a program that's being put on by our health committee about opioid, getting some help on opioid misuse. So that'll be at 2 o'clock. That's support our health team. And we're bringing in various professionals to discuss that topic. So hopefully, I don't see her. Is she coming? Okay, here she's on the way. Okay. With Ms. Betty Cole of the Dunbar Alumni Federation, we have the recipient. We have our recipient here, Seattle Ladisol. Glad to have you with us. And her mother, Howard. Her mother, Howard. Thank both of you for being with us. Before we present the award, I want us to have some comments, or hear some comments from our dear sister here from the Dunbar Alumni Federation, Ms. Betty Cole. Just pin this right here. Okay.
Good afternoon. Thank you all so very much for having me. Visited a mosque. I was telling them earlier that my auntie lived down the street at 1549 4th Street, and I was a young teenager then. I'm a great-grandmom now, and I watched the mosque built. We used to sit out on the porch, and we would go get sandwiches from the Shabazz restaurant, which was across the street, and we watched this building from ground up. So it means a lot to me to know that we are now partners with you all in furthering our youth education, which is very, very important. I firmly believe that we are all, and to God be the glory for all of you. I really appreciate you and thank you so very, very much. And if there's anything I can do from my end for you all, please open your mouths and say so. Just ask, and I'll be ready to assist.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Betty. I'm glad you were here with us.
Thank you.
Isn't that something? Yes. She was here and saw the building going up, and here she is today now in the same building that she saw when she was a little girl that was being built. She hadn't been in here since, but she's here now today. That's destiny that she's here. And an alumni, same alumni where our dear Dr. Alim Shabazz attended. He was the leader here, so there's a connection with both of them. And now we want to present, if we can have the mother come with the daughter in the middle here, and me and myself and Betty will present her scholarship award. So Seattle, you heard about Dr. Alim's history, the kind of contributions that he's made, and I want you to say that she is excelling. She has, I think, a 4.2 GPA. She is president of the student government. Yeah. Mm-hmm. And she's already a leader. Again, she's a president of the student government, right? Yeah. President of the student government. And we're honored to have you as this year's recipient of the Dr. Abdel Alim Scholarship.
Thank you.
Thank you again. And she said thank you if you didn't hear her. You in there you want to share? No. Okay, all right. And we appreciate her mother being here with her, Howard. Wonderful. And interesting because that name is the name of Eve. And she pretty sure she knows that, but those who don't know, that's the name of Eve in Islam.
I would like for one of the brothers to send me a picture if they don't mind. Okay, thank you.
All right. Okay, thank you all again, and we'll be seeing you in just a few minutes. They'll take you to reception. All right.
Title 2, y'all. 1985.
Okay, just a few more quick announcements.